Okay, so in our reading notebook, we have completed author's purpose and main idea and details, okay? These are specific structures that can apply to either a story or a piece of nonfiction, which means just an informational passage, okay? So under your main idea and details, we used an example of an ice cream cone. Do you remember this? Okay. Main idea was the cone. The details were the ice cream scoops. We used Winn-Dixie as an example, right? Of poor Otis and Otis's story of how he went to jail. So another way to describe that is we talked about a description of events. We talked about a description of events. So description is another way to say main idea and detail. They're actually the same thing.
No, wait, what? Wait, can you repeat that?
Let me explain. So in the middle of this little picture that you have here, right? You have this little solid bubble. If I were to put in here, Otis went to jail. That was the same main idea that I had in my ice cream cone, right?
Yeah.
Down at the bottom of my ice cream cone over here. Otis went to jail. And then all of the scoops were the details. Wouldn't it work the same way if I wrote Otis went to jail in the middle and all of these little bubbles were the details?
Yeah.
It would. Couldn't I also, over here, we have the example of ice cream. Ice cream can cause a sensation known as brain freeze. That was your main idea. If I were to put that here in the middle of my little organizer, brain freeze, couldn't I use all of the scoops that are in my notebook as all of these bubbles around it?
Yeah.
So do you see how it can work? It's the same thing, it's just different ways of organizing it as a picture in your mind. Okay? So the way that you're going to glue this down, and we're going to practice main idea and detail and this idea of description a lot. This is not the only time we're going to do this. This is kind of a big, I know, because that's the truth. This is a big concept for 4th grade, okay? So, if you fold it down on the top and just put some glue on there and you make like a little tab, like so. And then I glue it down, now I have this cool little clipboard that throughout the year we're going to be practicing with different passages that we can then put underneath this little clipboard piece. You have your ice cream cone, your clipboard, right? These are all main idea and detail. Notice how they're all green?
Yeah.
That also helps us, right? Helps in our brain. I want you to turn over the page and leave these blank. So for me, this is page 28 and 29.
This is 21.
Okay. And then on the next page is where I want you to put down your cause and effect. Cause and effect. So you're going to do the same thing that you did before. Okay? You're going to take the top, fold it down, make a little flap like a clipboard, right? Put some glue on that little flap and glue it to your notebook so that later you can glue in things underneath it. So you have 2 passages in front of you about monarch butterflies. Okay? Before we do that, let's review real quickly cause and effect. So the cause is what again? We just went over it. The cause is what W word? Just raise your hand. Please don't blurt out. Franson.
Why?
The why something happened. And the effect is what? Julia, what was that other W word?
What?
The what. Good. The what happened. So you have a why and a what. Okay, so now remembering that and remembering how main idea and detail or description works, read over these monarch butterfly passages. They are different. And I want you to decide which one is an example of description and which one is an example of cause and effect. So as you read them, you're looking for, if I was to organize this in a picture, would it be ice cream cones, right? Or the main idea in the middle and then details around it? Or are we talking about all of these things that one thing happens, so then something else has to happen? Another thing happens, and then something else happens. Read these two. Give me a thumbs up when you've decided which one is which. Awesome. I kind of agree with you. So this one that says monarch butterflies, we could very easily either do an ice cream cone or one of those word bubbles, and we would put the monarch butterfly in the middle. Would you agree?
Yeah.
That would be our middle, and then all of the details about the butterflies would go around it, right? Like one of those details would be they're orange and black. Okay? They have white spots. They are poisonous to certain animals. Bless you. A male has a black spot on each wing, right? So we would make all of those details, but they're all about the monarch butterfly. Would you agree? Okay, so if that one's main idea and detail, then that means this one, the longer passage, is cause and effect. So let's see if we can find those cause and effects. I'm going to get out my red and blue from earlier. Red was cause, blue was effect. So let's see. Monarch butterflies are the only insects to migrate to a warmer location and then return to their original homes when the warmer spring weather returns. They're not the only animal, but they're the only insect to do this, okay? Then it says they migrate for two reasons. First, they cannot survive through the freezing weather that covers many parts of the United States in the winter. So they have to go south when the cold weather begins. Okay, we could do this a lot of different ways, but I'm going to help you through this first part. They cannot survive through the freezing weather, right? Many of the parts of the United States have freezing weather in the winter. So that in itself could be its own little cause and effect, right? So because many parts of the United States have freezing weather, right? Or many parts of in the United States have winter, there is freezing weather. Does that make sense? That could be one little cause and effect right there. Now we could also say that because they can't survive through the freezing weather in the winter, the effect is they go south where the cold begins. So you could make it bigger. But I could also say the cold weather begins, so they have to go south, right? Do you see it?
Yes.
The cold weather begins, so they have to go south for the winter. Then it says their wintering location, usually in Mexico, does not grow the food the caterpillar needs, so the spring generation of butterflies can't stay in Mexico. So who said that's what I thought? Del Raya. So which one is which? What do you think?
The cause is Mexico in the winter, Mexico does not have the plants they need. So, in the effect is they have to go somewhere else.
Absolutely. So the spring generation of butterflies can't stay in Mexico, right? So again, I know this isn't all in one sentence, so it's a goofy looking circle, but you get it, right? So you have several different cause and effects happening in this same little passage. So what we're going to do is put this little passage underneath the cause and effect, okay? We're not going to glue the entire thing down because we want to leave space for more passages that will be coming in the future, because we're going to practice deciding, is a passage organized as cause and effect or
So we make it
something
flat.
else.
She said just a little bit.
So put just a strip of glue up on that top part, just like that top third even, and stick it underneath that cause and effect, so that if I need to stick some more under it later, I could, but it's not going to go anywhere, right? These are cause and effect. And then I'm going to do the same thing back over here for my main idea in detail about the monarch butterfly. I'm going to stick that under this description or main idea in detail, right? So if we were to think about it while you're gluing those down, just keep your ears open. If we were to think about a land remembered so far, have there been parts of the story, a land remembered, that were written in this main idea and detail description format? Yes. When did you hear them describe a bunch of details about the same thing so far in your reading? Riley?
When they murdered that what was it called?
Okay, you can go ahead and go. So what was the main idea? What were the details, you think? Okay, what was the main idea? Okay, how about we go even bigger than that, and the main idea is they kill their own food, right? Because this isn't the only animal they kill for food, right? Maybe you haven't read that far yet. There are more animals that they're going to kill in order to eat. So the main idea might be they kill their own food. And then all the details would be all the different types of animals, okay? Could there be a main idea that says what the Florida homestead looked like at this point?
Yes.
Okay, or what the Florida scrub, I think is what they called it, looked like. And we would talk about all of the different plants and trees that they saw and all of the different animals. Those could be details. Right, like the palmetto plants. Now, what about cause and effect? Is there any part of our story that has been, because this happened so far? Think about why the McIvy family even moved to Florida to begin with.
Oh yeah, I know.
Now the light bulbs are clicking. Jolie.
Why is because they moved to Florida because they were the Civil War was probably gonna hit Georgia.
Okay.
And
So the cause would be the Civil War is coming to Georgia.
yeah.
So the effect was
They moved to Florida.
the family moved to Florida to escape. Right? That was one very simple. Right away at the beginning we found cause and effect. Now you're going to read today. I'm going to give you some time to read. Further into these chapters, you're going to get a lot of cause and effects. Because one thing happened, the family had to do something different. Because this happened, the family does something else. So I want you to kind of be thinking of those in the back of your mind. Take note of them. We're going to talk about them more tomorrow. Okay?